There is a version of this story that could have been told differently. A story about a strange little alien who arrives on Earth, befriends a lonely girl, and tries to use his magical powers to make her life better. That story exists. It has been told before in various shapes and forms, and it usually ends with warmth, with connection, with the idea that kindness, however awkward or clumsy, is enough. Takopi's original sin is not that story. It uses that premise the way you might use a familiar room, to make you feel safe just long enough to understand suddenly that the door behind you is no longer there. I want to be careful about how I talk about this series, because it is easy to describe what happens in it and have that description become the whole conversation. Easy to say, this anime contains child abuse, bullying, suicidal ideation, neglect, and violence, and have those words sit there like a warning label, informing you of the contents without telling you anything about what they mean inside the story. So let me try to say it differently. Takopi's original sin is a story about what happens when someone who cannot understand suffering tries to fix it, and about the people who suffer through that misunderstanding, and about how much damage gets done, quietly, by everyone who thought they were trying to help. That, I think, is what makes this series not just difficult to watch, but important to watch. Not because it is brutal, not because it is dark, but because it is honest in the way that very few things about childhood, about cruelty, and about responsibility ever allow themselves to be. At the center of this orbit is Takopi, a creature defined by a singular, suffocating mission: to spread happy. In any other story, Takopi would be the mascot of hope. But here, that relentless pursuit of a smile becomes the most destructive force in the room. When Takopi encounters Shizuka, a young girl whose life has been reduced to a series of endurance tests, the tragedy isn't that Takopi fails to help her. The tragedy is that Takopi tries. The series presents us with a fundamental, unsettling truth. Kindness without understanding is just another form of violence. Takopi approaches Shizuka's trauma, her isolation, the bullying, the profound neglect at home, with the logic of a child's picture book. He offers gadgets. He offers happy tools. He offers the kind of shallow optimism we often use to dismiss the pain of others because we are too uncomfortable to sit with it. By forcing a smile onto a face that has every right to weep, Takopi doesn't save Shizuka. He ignores her. He inadvertently communicates to her that her suffering is a problem to be solved, rather than a reality to be acknowledged. It is a devastating reflection of how we, as a society, often treat the broken. We don't want them to be well. We just want them to stop looking sad. Cruelty in this world isn't a spectacle. It's systemic. It's found in the way a classroom of children can sense weakness and descend upon it like a physical weight. It's found in the way adults look at a broken child and see an inconvenience rather than a soul in need of rescue. The series forces us to sit in the small, cramped spaces where Shizuka exists. We feel the heavy air of her apartment and the coldness of the playground. It doesn't ask for our pity. Pity is too easy. Instead, it demands our witness. It asks us to look at the bruises that aren't just on the skin, but in the way a child learns to stop expecting anything from the world. As the story progresses, the lines of guilt begin to blur until they disappear entirely. Who is responsible for the blood on the floor? Is it the child who finally snapped? Is it the bully who was herself a victim of a different kind of rot at home? Or is it the alien who provided the means, believing he was bringing happiness? The series places an unbearable weight of responsibility on characters who are fundamentally incapable of carrying it. We see children trying to navigate moral dilemmas that would break an adult, making choices based on a limited, desperate understanding of the world. They are playing a game where the rules were written by the very people who abandoned them. There is no villain to hate, which is perhaps the most unsettling part of the experience. There is only a cycle, a hand that strikes because it was once struck, a mouth that lies because it was never told the truth. By the time we reach the midpoint of the series, the concept of innocence has been revealed as a fragile, temporary state, one that cannot survive the awareness of how much we can hurt one another. You will want it to turn it off. There are moments where the emotional gravity feels like it might actually bruise you. But Takopi's original sin is necessary, precisely because it refuses to look away. It strips the coming-of-age genre of its nostalgia and replaces it with the cold reality of what happens when we fail the most vulnerable among us. It indicts the viewer, not for watching, but for living in a world where Shizukas exist in every neighborhood, behind every closed door, and in every silent classroom. It doesn't offer the catharsis of a happy ending. It doesn't promise that things will be okay. Instead, it leaves us in the wreckage, staring at the debris of lives that didn't have to be this way. It is a confrontation with the original sin of our society, the belief that we can ignore the suffering of others as long as it doesn't cross our doorstep. It is a story about the cost of a smile, the price of silence, and the devastating truth that sometimes, by the time we decide to help, there is nothing left to save. There is a version of you that watches this series and is simply disturbed, that feels the weight of it and sets it down when the credits roll and does not carry it further. But the series is hoping for the version of you that doesn't set it down entirely, that keeps, somewhere, the specific quality of discomfort it produces, the question it leaves open about responsibility, the image of a child surrounded by failed attempts at care, holding everything alone, waiting for something that could understand rather than merely try. That image is not fictional. It just needed a story to make it visible.